IronCAD's shrink wrap command has been enhanced even further to give a little bit more feedback and more options during the command. So if we go ahead and run our shrink wrap command, you will see some new options like faces to keep and some preview options available to you right away. So let me go ahead and run through some of these. So for example, faces to keep allows you to go in to select a part and specify or designate certain faces to remain regardless of the size that you're telling it to remove. So for example, I'll select these two larger holes here, and notice even if I select smaller holes here, notice these two options for equal radius and concentric. It automatically found holes throughout that part that have those equal radiuses set, and it will actually select all those for me in one shot, so I don't have to manually go and pick those all throughout the part. I can also select through the faces. For example, if I wanted to get this inner face to make sure our fitting is there, we can actually select that inner face as well, and you'll see that it actually is highlighting all of those as well for all my fittings, since they're at the actual equal radius as well. So that I can quickly get all the faces that I want to maintain, and if I show a preview of my holes, notice I have all my hole patching set to all. Even if I show the preview, it'll tell me these are the faces that it's still going to remove, but all my other ones that I have selected are remaining. So it tells me what I'm removing and what's being kept. So it's a nice preview to give me an idea of what's going to happen when I run the command. I can also go through and use some of the normal commands. For example, I can select parts to keep, so I want to keep all these fittings, for example. I can select those fittings or these shafts inside of here as well. Go ahead and select those. I'm going to click these last two fittings. We want to make sure we keep all those. We can show a preview. Even if we have this 30% on here, we can show a preview. Those would be all removed if we ran our shrink wrapping with that percentage. But since we're going to keep those won't be removed inside of there. We can also do other things as normal. We can have parts being discarded in part of the operation. For example, we can have this back brace removed or this interface removed. And we can also add a new option to convert shapes to a block. So if we wanted to convert this entire face, for example, into a block representation to hide some detail, I can do that. I'll do that on some simple faces here on the inside so you can get an idea. These two have holes on them, but if I select these two blocks, notice these are my internal plates, they'll be converted into a block. It basically takes the overall bounding box of that object and make it a simple representation so that you can hide additional detail instead of giving away all your details on your shrink wrapped exported data. Some other options that we've added at the bottom is one is to create a shell. So if you wanted a solid model, you would uncheck this. If you wanted a shell result to give you even more secure data formats when you're transmitting this to other people, this would be an option that you would want to have selected, as creating a shell or a surface model, if you will, with that option. So if I go ahead and run this command, you'll see that it's actually now giving us some progress statuses of what's happening. In this case, it went pretty quick. We can save this file as a name here and go ahead and hit save, and it'll actually give us another dialog telling us what actually was completed. If it removed any parts, kept certain amount of parts that we told it not to remove, disregarded two parts that we had selected, and created two box parts, and give us a file size reduction. This one didn't remove much since we actually kept a lot of the data here and turned it into a shell. It didn't reduce a whole lot in this case. But you can see this is a surface result on the tree on the left hand side. So it is a surface model, and you can see that it kept the holes that we told it to. For example, for these pieces here, since they were linked parts, it kept it on both parts for us, and it told us to keep these smaller holes here for us as well in our larger holes that we had specified. If we drop an object on this after we convert it to an editable part, we can see that this actually is a shelled result, or a shell model if I make this big enough here, and we look inside of this cut that we just made, you can see that we can see inside of those faces. So it's not a solid model anymore, it is a surface model. So it gives you a little bit more secure file running that command. So anyways, this new command has been enhanced quite a bit to give you a lot more previews and a lot more capabilities. Again, this works on IronCAD's native geometry and actually imported models as well. You can actually shrink wrap imported holes and faces that are just determined by the way they look in the model versus actually IronCAD features. So a very handy tool to use, and all this is in IronCAD 2018 Product Update 1. Enjoy.